Alright, here we are in Gothenburg and we're gonna shoot our new short film untitled EarthSim 64. It's sort of a standalone prequel to a longer film we were gonna shoot at the beginning of this year in Hong Kong, but then the coronavirus happened and we can't shoot it. It's impossible. So we came up with this film instead. And what is it about?
It's about
a woman named Marie who comes to learn that her universe is an untitled simulation, and we follow her as she deals with existential crisis of that realization.
What?
We shot the film over 2 days, and we started day 1 by shooting in the harbour.
So I'm an actress and I'm from the UK, half Icelandic as well. And here I am on a really nice hot sunny day in Gothenburg.
Is the hat a part of the costume?
It's my personal fashion choice actually, yeah. And it is very good if you just want to get that slightly more blonder feel. Squeeze just the lemon inside the hat, put it on, solid, done.
Before the shoot even begins, we storyboard the entire film, often using photographs taken at real locations. We put it all together so that you can read it like a weird comic book almost. And for us it's actually such a helpful document that when we're on set, it replaces the screenplay and the shot list.
Great.
We shot the film on a Sony FX9, which isn't a low-budget camera, but we were able to borrow it for free from my old workplace. If this camera hadn't been available, we would have used my own much cheaper camera, and to be honest, the film wouldn't have looked all that different, and we did in fact film several shots with my GH4.
So we've just done quite a bit of the beginning of the film. We've just dropped some ice cream on my head, and I've washed it now with a bottle of water. So yeah, no, it's been good, it's been good. It's been hot, it's been nice. And hopefully I've managed to work on my tan throughout the day. Maybe.
Moving on from the harbour, we went to the apartment of our teammate Ellen to shoot the ending of the film. We shot it during blue hour because I really wanted that blue colourful sky, and I didn't want the surroundings to be hidden in darkness. But this also meant that we only had about 30 minutes to capture a huge portion of the scene. It would have been almost impossible to shoot the whole scene in that time window, so that is one of the reasons why we had Marie sit down for part of the scene. We shot that segment last, and I digitally replaced the sky to make it look like it was still blue hour.
Jeez. Fast and the Furious, Gothenburg.
Retake.
all right. Some of us are queer. Line.
We started the second day by shooting a quick scene in the city, and then we trekked up a little mountain to shoot our last remaining scene, for which our supporting actress Aya joined us.
But it's all a lie!
Yeah.
Aya is a wrestler. She could beat me up if she wanted to.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Maybe in a few takes.
Oh god.
Yeah, Jonathan wants like a lot of takes, which is challenging, but you know, we want to get a great film, so you know, I think the main thing is just being positive, yeah? Just keeping that positivity going.
This.
But we didn't it. We finished the scene, had a wrap party, and that was it. So it's been a few months since the shoot, and here we are at the post-production facilities of the film, which is a state-of-the-art room, my bedroom. I thought it'd be fun to give a glimpse into some of the post-production work that went into the film. So let me introduce you to the crew. It's just me. Normally you would have at least a few different people involved, from your editor to your visual effects department, your colorist, your sound designer. But one of the key reasons we were able to make the film on a fairly small budget was that I filled in those roles on my own and finished the film on my laptop. I think it's a good example of how accessible filmmaking has become, that even if you can't afford a big crew or a post-production house to work on your film, there's still so much that you can do on your own. When I start editing, basically the first thing I do is I have a small breakdown. This happens after every shoot because I feel like I did a terrible job. I think about all the shots we weren't able to get. I realize that my favorite take is out of focus and that some of the sound is unusable. But I think that the biggest problem is that all I can think about is the amazing film that I saw in my head rather than the film that we got. And I have to remind myself that the film that we got is so much better because it's real. When you start working, you realize that maybe you didn't need all those shots that you didn't get. And if you do, there's always pickups. You can sharpen the blurry shot in post, and you can record ADR to fix the bad sound. You slowly start fixing and improving things, and eventually you forget what you were so worried about.
You're weird, huh?
One of the challenges with this film was that there are these long dialogue scenes where one of the characters is just a voice, so it's a bit hard covering it in an interesting way. The first scene in particular is essentially just footage of a person standing still in a parking lot. I tried getting a lot of different angles and stuff, but a lot of it ended up not working for different reasons, so the footage I had left was a little bit boring. I also had some problems with the continuity because, as opposed to a normal scene where you can cut away to a different character, I was always cutting back to the same person, so if anything didn't match, it was very obvious. This thing with the butterfly was actually completely invented in post in order to solve these problems. It allowed me to cut away to something as well as just making the scene more interesting. Karen isn't really looking at anything here. This is actually the very beginning of a shot where she is anticipating the cue for the loud megaphone noise. The ghost was another thing that we came up with in post. It was always written in the screenplay that the researcher would pretend to be a ghost, but we never actually saw it. And I think seeing that crappy ghost makes it a much better moment. One last example of how things evolve in post is this scene with the friend. The way we initially shot it, it was supposed to end on this shot. She picks up the phone and she goes,
Hi, can I have all the psychiatric hospitals, please?
but in the edit it became clear that it wasn't very funny and it just wasn't a very strong end to the scene. So I explained to Aya that I messed up, and she was kind enough to go back with me to the mountain so that we could grab another shot and end it on a funnier joke.
Call psychiatric hospital.
Calling Birdface Bradley.
This is all just to say that it's not about being perfect straight away, you just need to be open to improving bit by bit. There's quite a lot of visual effect shots in the film, some obvious and some maybe not as obvious. The film consists of 73 shots total, and 67 of those are visual effects shots. The most obvious effects are the different glitches, and we did a few tests before the shoot to get an idea what they would look like. The backbone of the glitch effects is this weird looking layer that I created. It has a bunch of alien symbols that are meant to be the code of the simulation. You basically take your footage and you filter that glitch layer through an empty background plate. This looks kinda flat and boring though, so I do a lot of manual work frame by frame to make it look more three-dimensional and dynamic. Finally, I add some camera shake and details such as motion blur and chromatic aberration to make the effect feel more organic.
What the fuck?
I thought it'd be fun to show some of the less obvious effects as well, like this lamppost for example is a visual effect. Why in God's name is that? Well, it starts with the location scout. In the screenplay, I had just written that the scene takes place in a park, but I knew I wanted to shoot somewhere a bit more interesting. I happened to be in this abandoned parking lot one day and I saw a remnant of a lamppost. If you're gonna have someone walk into a lamppost, it's so much funnier if it's the only lamppost around. And this is one of many scenarios where a bit of visual effects knowledge is quite helpful, because even though the location didn't have exactly what we needed, a lamppost, I knew that I could quite easily create that, so we didn't need to compromise and shoot somewhere less interesting. We grabbed some stills of a lamppost nearby, matched the lighting, and comped it in. The only exception is this shot where Karen walks into the post. In that case, it was easier to shoot her walking into a real lamppost and to replace the background. Another curious visual effect is this shot where Karen gets an ice cream on her head.
One take, we'll nail this.
This was the first take and we only had time to do 2, and in the second one the ice cream fell down to the side. Not bad, but I wanted it to stick on her head like a dunce cap, so I grabbed the first take and I actually replaced her face so that we don't see her laughing. One final example is this establishing dolly shot, which isn't a dolly shot at all. With the limited budget and time that we had, it just wouldn't have been possible to bring a dolly up the mountain. So what I did was I shot 2 static shots, rotoscoped Aya out and put them together with a digital camera move and focus pull. That's what I love about visual effects, that it's not just a tool to put superheroes and lasers into your film. You can use it in all kinds of ways to your benefit. Something that a lot of people might not realize is that, with the exception of some of the dialogue, essentially every single sound is added in post. There's a few different reasons for this, but it essentially comes down to sound quality and sound design. The microphone on set isn't always gonna pick up all the sounds that the audience expects to hear, and in some cases reality just doesn't sound that good. When you create the sound from scratch, you're able to fine-tune and to make sure that everything has the right tone and feel. In the case of a comedy, there's also a lot of ways that sound can be funny. There's a lot of examples where I put in little background sounds to accentuate what's happening on screen. After Marie walks into the lamppost, I added seagulls that are almost laughing at her. Or after she finds out about the simulation, you can hear the screeching of tires. Almost as if her world is screeching to a halt. There's also cases where you have to record the dialogue afterwards, which is a process called ADR. This isn't necessarily something you want to do, but sometimes you have to. In our case, I had decided to shoot the dialogue scene with a friend on a mountain next to a highway. I knew that it was a pretty noisy location, but I just thought it was worth it. I figured I would be able to save the sound with some noise reduction, and that worked with Karen's dialogue, but Aya's dialogue turned out to be completely unusable and we had to replace all of it.
We're here to record automatic dialogue replacement because someone decided to shoot next to a highway and now we're at the
Generally, you record ADR in a quiet studio in order to get the best sound quality possible, but it's very easy for ADR to sound fake or to sound too perfect. I just needed it to sound good and to sound real, so we actually recorded it outside using the same equipment as on the main shoot.
All you've done is found proof that there is a creator.
All you've done is found proof that there is a creator.
I also want to take the opportunity to thank my friend James, who played the voice of the alien researcher. He lives in Sydney, Australia, and it was great to be able to collaborate from different sides of the world. James was kind enough to do one recording before the shoot so that we could have playback on set, and then one more recording during post in order to refine and alter some lines.
How was that, John?
James, I think I love you.
Cool.
When it came to the music, I decided pretty early on to go for licensed songs rather than original score. One of the reasons was that I wanted a variety of music that would have been pretty difficult for one composer to create. In the end credits alone, there's everything from elevator music to J-pop, 50s horror, heavy metal. And it also made financial sense because I was able to use the website Upright Music to license all of the film soundtrack for about $300 US. The same amount would have given me maybe half a song of original score. So even though original music is nice, I don't think it's always the right answer. The final step in creating the look of the film is the color grade. In my case, I wanted to make a pretty bright, colorful and warm looking film that goes just a little bit darker at the end. This is also the step where you make sure that everything is matching. Sometimes you're cutting two shots together that might look very different and they might even have been shot with different cameras, so you color correct them for consistency. In the Blue Hour sequence, this was something I had to do a lot because the light was constantly shifting. It was very bright when we started shooting and very dark when we finished, so some of the shots didn't match at all. But if I've done my job right, you won't see that in the finished film. Finally, after all of that, the film is done. But the work isn't quite finished yet. Before we can send it out to film festivals and release it online, we have some distribution work to do. We need to cut a trailer, create subtitles, make a poster, prepare still images, create marketing materials, and finally, make a behind-the-scenes film. It might seem like a lot of work for a 6-minute short film, but that's what it takes. I don't know if anyone but my parents are gonna watch this, but if you did, I hope you found it interesting. It was certainly a lot of fun for us to make, and I'm glad that our postponed Hong Kong project led to something positive. Thanks for watching, and that's about it. The end.